Good afternoon, y'all. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Notice the meeting was properly posted Thursday, March the 2nd. Item 3 is discussion, review, and possible action regarding ongoing space utilization plan implementation for the county annex, and specifically the first floor Oklahoma County Emergency Management Department area. Okay.
Yeah, as you know, we got the approval to go ahead with the utility locations last week, and that's underway. So now the final step of this is exactly how we're going to finish the spaces out, where the furniture is going to be, and so forth. One of the easy ones that seems like to knock out would be the small piece emergency management is made yet. We got storm season coming up, so they were hoping we could get it knocked out quick and get them up and running, ready to go. So it's everything that they have currently now, plus a little bit addition, all behind that really solid, what we call the lead line wall. Downstairs is a little over 400 square feet. And, that's what the item basically is. Recommend approval for that to the board. Maybe we can do that sooner than later.
You recommending?
Yeah. I make a motion that we recommend.
John, do you have anything, or you say it? John Comstock with Emergency Management.
Only that we have existing two-way radio infrastructure there that runs up to the roof, and relocating anywhere else in the building would also be an additional challenge.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, awesome. We will make that recommendation to the board. Next, hopefully we can make this week's meeting.
You can actually make Wednesday.
Chantel could assist us.
Matthew, Chantel.
I'll figure it out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. Item number 4 is discussion, review, and possible action regarding proposed repurposing of the Pauline Myers shelter located on the Oklahoma Bureau complex. Thank you. Chris, whoever.
Well, Christian, I'll let you. We received some email traffic with some proposals.
Yeah, I think the people here, that being DHS and Sheriff, would really like to address number 5. It may encompass number 4 as well.
Okay.
So I don't know what order they would like to talk.
Would you like to do the lease first?
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, all right, without objection from you guys. Okay. So we'll come back to item 4. Number 5 is discussion, review, and possible action regarding an amended lease with DHS related to the proposed repurposing of Pauline Myers shelter. And as the committee will recall, we had recommended to the board a draft lease once before. DHS took that, came back to us with some concerns, and there was some discussion. And I understand DHS may have been able to get some direction from the higher-ups. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, if I may, I've made some notes, and of course I've waited till now to get them out. So, but what the agency is willing to do, what it can do, is go ahead and commence the lease July 1 of this year for 25 one-year terms. We have routine maintenance and maintenance discussed, but maybe the better way to approach it would be DHS has been paying about $160,000 a year for expenses related to the Pauline Mayer building. And as of last Friday afternoon late, we have authority to say that we will commit to $160,000 in any given 1 year to pay toward ongoing utilities, maintenance, routine or otherwise, but that's what we will commit to. That's what we can commit to. And that's consistent with what we had discussed with Judge Davis a year or two ago, and, I have, absolute authority to offer that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any of those discussions, but,
Well, it was-
question, with regard to the 160, that wouldn't include any associated personnel costs. Is that assumption correct on my part?
That's just toward utilities, maintenance, janitorial, all that stuff.
Okay, that differs from the proposed lease in that we separated utilities and janitorial services were not addressed. I wouldn't consider janitorial services necessarily part maintenance. Just so you're aware.
If I may?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We've discussed with the council, and I believe we will look for donor funds if the $1.4 million does not cover replacement of the HVAC and roof, the systems that currently need to be replaced. Council will look and find those funds and replace those systems. So we'll be starting out with new systems and a new roof.
Mr. Chairman? You said it's a $160,000 commitment in 1 year?
Per year, yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understand. So we're talking about up to $160,000. That's the cap,
Right.
correct? All of Sorry, legislative habit. So the question I have is, suppose that in 1 year, there's $40,000 worth of some sort of maintenance that's incurred. Obviously, that doesn't eat up the whole 160. The next year, there's another 40. The next year, there's another 40. I mean, is the 160 only available during a single year, or can that be spread out over the life of the lease? Or is it a one-time expenditure that you spend all 160 at one time, or you don't spend it at all? That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Okay. No, it would be a cumulative total of $160,000 per state fiscal year, which begins July 1, ends June 30. So if it's 40,000 and then there's another 20,000, if it's within that time period, DHS will pay up to $160,000 toward whatever it is.
Per year?
Per year. Yeah.
Not $160,000 cap for the life of the lease?
No.
Got it. Okay.
Let me ask,
We aren't that unreal.
let me ask.
I was just making sure I understand.
Just to clarify, that 160 is for a year, and since the state can't budget for more than a year at a time, there cannot be any carryover. So if we only use 40,000 in 1 year, then there can't be 120,000 that goes into a escrow account.
The legislature would rate that money anyway.
Yes.
No.
So, you said the 160 represents an average of what DHS has spent.
Correct.
So, today, as we said, if you exceeded the 160, if a number exceeded 160, DHS would be paying anything above the 160, is that correct?
No.
No. Is there,
There's
a limit
160 per year.
in today, under today's contract?
Oh, the existing one?
So you're asking the county to take on expenses potentially that we don't currently take on?
Well, I'm telling you that that's what we can agree to, and you're getting a building with a new roof and new HVAC systems, so I wouldn't think there's gonna be a whole lot attached to, going forward, but I cannot commit to anything more than 160 per year.
Right, but under today's,
Well, it's however, if donors wanna contribute, if the county wants to contribute, it's the owner of the building, so, I would think it would be the final arbiter of what needs to happen.
think the contract would speak to that, right? As I understand it, and I'm no lawyer, but from reading the current contract that we're operating under, DHS is responsible essentially for everything that is outlined in the proposed agreement currently.
That's correct.
So if it went over 160 today, as we said, DHS would be responsible for, in essence, you're asking the county then to pick up an expense potentially that we don't currently have.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just wanted to throw in there, but on the flip side, you're gonna, when we finish renovations on that building, everything in that building is gonna be new, except the elevator and the infrastructure for the plumbing. And so there's gotta be some value there for the county.
I'm not saying there wasn't, but I'm just pointing out the fact that under today's current lease language, which we heard a month or so ago, that DHS could do whatever they wanted with that building, going forward, with or without this new proposed lease, that the county would be, under this proposal from DHS, picking up an expense potentially that we don't currently have. That's all.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a breakout of what the utilities currently are per year?
I do not.
So, I mean, if utilities are $150 a year, you're offering 10 for maintenance.
Joe, can I for a second? I understand what you're saying, that there's gonna be some new stuff in there, so the potential cost on the county would be less with, since it's a new HVAC system and all of that. So as it sits right now, according to the contract, DHS is responsible for all of those expenses. So in actuality, it's not, I mean, I understand you're pitching the argument that it's a benefit to the county, but it's actually a benefit to you guys. You know, if we do the contract as presented without a cap, your exposure is going to be less going forward than your exposure is today. Because
That's
today
correct.
your exposure is 100%,
Right.
and with new items.
With the original HVAC, the original plumbing, the original roof.
Right, so your exposure right now, under contract, is pretty, you know, it's pretty great, potentially.
Yes.
With the upgrades and the changes, even if the terms and conditions in the current contract still require you to be fully 100% liable for those maintenance operations, your actual responsibility is less grave than it was before because you had all of that stuff.
Correct, but I also think that the county, going forward, if you have a new roof, a new HVAC, and new plumbing, all those are gonna come with warranties, so that the work will be done without any out-of-pocket expense for a number of years. And so, the county's, potential exposure is much less grave than if we were to just walk away.
Well, walking away is, I mean, that's a different argument altogether.
Yes, it is.
The county's exposure is less today than it would be under the proposed agreement that you have.
Yes, sir, I can't argue with that.
If I may, the $160,000 is based on historical figures, and so for the last, we've had the building, DHS on the building 30 years. So that, I believe that figure was from the last few years.
I believe that's correct, our budget
Maintenance
director put it
expense,
together.
and that's with replacing 3 HVAC systems currently. So I think realistically, moving forward, the expense, practically speaking, should be less. So I think the risk is not great here.
Well, it depends on the utility, because if utilities are running $200,000 a year, that means we're in for 40 day one. Just on utilities.
Well, we're not even talking
I
about
don't,
it.
I'm saying utility and maintenance, including
But
all of
we
this
haven't talked about the
and
elevator.
replacement of 3 HVAC systems.
Go look up there.
is not much
How
over
quickly, how expensive
$150,000.
What I was trying to say though was that I agree there's a potential for, you know, all of that to be cheaper going forward. But whether it's cheaper or not, the shifted expense and the shifted liability and responsibility all goes to the county. Whereas the expense savings if we stay with the same contract. DHS is the one that will experience that savings on a monthly basis going forward, even under the current contract language.
But the county is the owner.
Well, let me
Not the user.
let me ask this. Rather than just talking about what DHS can propose, if we could get that in writing, so take the amended lease, or the recommended lease that we sent to DHS, if you'll make those changes in writing, if you haven't already, get those to Gretchen so that the committee can take a look at them. Some of them, these guys might be following you. I'm not sure that I am completely. But I have a greater concern, and my concern is this. We've now waited on DHS for almost a month, and we have deadlines that have been established by the donor, and I hope that the donor will recognize that it's not the county. We've done our part, we've made a recommendation, and I'm concerned that we may not hit those deadlines now. So are we going to see a different grant agreement as well? Gretchen, have you heard anything about that to reflect the delays, or are we still looking at, I think it was a May 17th deadline to...
No, in fact, now that it's contemplated replacing the HVAC and the roof, and hearing that that would come from another donor source, you really couldn't move forward until you had all the funds secured, so that would potentially delay everything again.
Right.
But I think we don't know exactly until we put out to bid what we're looking at here, is that right? But we can't put it out to bid until we have documents signed, so.
No, the engineering needs to be done before you go out with it. They can't put together the bid specs until the structural engineering and architectural plans are finalized.
But we can't get those finalized until we have these agreements put in place and $100,000 in the bank. So I feel like we're at the chicken or the egg here at this point. And if I may, in the grant agreement, the donor has the option to terminate. There's no definite. If progress is not being made, then the donor has the option to terminate at the May deadline, but there's no definite termination.
So I guess what you're looking at ultimately is if you can get to an agreement on the lease, and you move forward with both the lease and the donor agreement, it's up to the donor whether or not she wants to wire over a minimum of $100,000 in the entire dollar amount. If she wires over the $100,000, the county then would have the funds to retain the structural engineer, get your information so you can put out your bid package, right? Get that in, then you'll see more clearly whether or not you need more or additional funds, and then you're going to be kind of squished between a rock and a hard place because you're in a rush to try and get that bid reduced, successful bidders bid reduced to a contract form, and then get those monies encumbered. So I see where you're going at. Some will start to tighten up time-wise and financially. But arguably, if the bids come in, say, at an amount that's considerably higher than what the donor had agreed and what Sarah thinks she can raise outside of that, the donor then could say, I back out. She has basically donated the $100,000 and just has said she's not going to continue further. Is that your understanding as well?
I believe that's correct. I think the bottom line here is if the county is not willing to undertake above the $160,000 annual from DHS, and I think we're done here. Is my thought. So I feel like that's the first hurdle.
Okay, so the second one, and maybe DHS can address this, is that I've seen it twice now in the past 6 months that agreements from the state have a new paragraph that basically say yeah, we'd like to enter into this agreement with you, but in the event we lack funding, we're not responsible for the remainder of this contract, and the county's not going to be able to agree to that language. Seems like. And if that's...
Not in this lease, is it?
No, but if it's inserted, it's going to be a problem.
Duly noted.
I don't anticipate that being brought into the agreement. And we could save some time, and I know this isn't, well, I don't know whether it's within either of these two items, but if we could agree to do the construction management delivery method of construction, that would speed up a lot of things, and that Ms. Gruel's already, we have it in writing from, owns, real property section, that they've approved it for that. So it will be faster than if going out for bid on who knows how many
Well,
engineers.
there's still a selection process.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying it has to go faster than the typical public bidding environment.
Typically, CM at risk will go faster than design bid build, which we will normal. They're both delivery methods the statute allows. This committee hasn't decided yet which way they're going to go. That's a future item for them to digest. The other method's a good delivery method, the construction management risk. We haven't got that point of decision.
Right, I'm sure.
Stacy, if we can get past this lease and come to some sort of agreement, I believe the idea is to have an agreement with the county DHS for Scout Services that could spell out a little bit of that detail. That way it's all in writing, and we have it. Something for another agenda.
Miles, you have anything?
My biggest concern about the whole 160 is the elevator. We know from those things going down. I don't know when the last time it's inspected or maintenance or anything done on it. Those things get very, very expensive very, very quickly. We know anything about it, Stacy?
No.
Of course, Keith's not here.
No, it's grandma fast.
But other than that, I mean, I questioned the utility cost and if we could put it in escrow, et cetera, and Mr. Gould answered that, so. I think, I mean, if we were able to take that 160 and only spend 40, 50, 60 a year and able to carry over the
Well,
100 in escrow.
you also kind of have a little accounting nightmare on the side, you know, thing where we substantiate what they spend annually as well.
Randy? What?
I mean,
I'm sorry, sir.
well, I was just gonna, I appreciate the situation that DHS is in, having been at stake the last 6 years, and, I mean, obviously, what Commissioner Vaughn wants is to make it work. You know, we are committed to the repurposing of that shelter. We're very appreciative of the donor and the willingness to step up and now provide some new equipment at a significant cost. And so, again, it's a business decision. I think, having not seen the numbers, but, you know, believing that these are probably pretty accurate, that it's not a great risk to the county, but we can't make that decision yet. I understand the escrow issue as well about carryover, which is frustrating.
Especially from being one of the robbers.
Yeah, retired. So.
Reformed, I think.
If they can't escrow, can they just turn this thing around as that's a lease thing, rather than a no lease deal? And then money does come here day one, and the legislature can't touch it. You just pull them out that way.
And then could we put
Takes
it,
the risk, less
put it in a rollover and like,
I'll have to the attorney.
It depends on how you set the budget.
But then we would be managing maintenance and the upkeep and all that.
Yeah, you just have to.
We'd be managing it, but we would have
Well, right.
$150,000 in pocket.
You know, there's a point of future negotiation, right there. If they would be willing to pay their own janitorial and, arguably the utilities and pay the county $150,000 in lease payment every year, then the county would have a cushion for current and future maintenance. Now, whether or not, you could put it in a revolving fund is probably, no. But you would be offsetting it through other uses, you see what I'm saying? But, it's not a PDA on the building. But,
If I may also, I believe DHS has crews and resources in place to allow for efficiencies with this $160,000 that might not be able to be utilized in the event of a lease payment.
Yes, we have a construction unit, and they provide maintenance services all over the state for all of our buildings.
but they can't do custodial services in a leased building, don't you think?
Well, it'd be the flow of the money
Right.
would be the issue.
So we do lease payments, but, and, to the county, then the county has the control of the dollars, and, I think there might be some question as to whether DHS can utilize their existing systems and crews to do this work then. I don't know how that would work. Maybe the county then pays DHS back.
No, it'd be independent maintenance.
I think all of this is the reason why this group, whenever they were looking at the OSU extension, lease, and contract in BOCC, when they voted on that, I think that's the reason, these questions and concerns are the exact reason why, when we're doing zero leases, $0 amount leases, that we've, the BOCC and this group has talked about having that maintenance be on the responsibility of that party to alleviate these types of issues and concerns, because they can be a wormhole that's just really difficult to get out of. I mean, you just discussed, a few things, but, it could be a nightmare.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to take us out of the details, because I am not an attorney. I do understand numbers a bit, but I'm a volunteer and a donor. And it seems like, and I was kind of whispering to Sarah, we need to step up for a minute and decide, are you guys game for this project? Because we can whittle it to death and back and forth to death, and I appreciate what you said, that the commissioner is in favor of it. And we've actually been toying around with Plan B. I mean, we have another option, and it means leaving the building vacant and dilapidated. And there's several of our council that are from the recycling nature, and it makes them sick to their stomach to think of leaving the building. I mean, I hate to be so frank, but I mean, that's kind of where we are. I understand these details, I understand the questions of how much are they paying in maintenance, and I understand your upside risk for the county, and I hate it for everyone. But I don't know how else we can propel out of this.
Well, I'm beginning to feel like at least there's a gun pointed at our head over here, that if this somehow goes south, it's the county's fault. And I don't see it that way at all.
And I don't mean that.
DHS came to the county about this project, and we are all willing, otherwise it wouldn't be sitting here. As I said before, I have a responsibility to my boss to present her with the best information possible and try to do the best job to protect the county's interest, and I understand DHS as well. That's why I said I would prefer to at least have something in writing to review rather than to sit here and to talk about it. If we can get something in writing back to Gretchen that we can all sit down and talk about, I think reasonable minds can come together. But an assertion that the county is somehow delaying this project, in my view, is totally inaccurate.
Well,
Okay, and that's not what I was saying. I just want us all to rise above and decide, do we want to make this deal? I'm saying that to my DHS counterparts also.
Well, I'll make a point, and then one single one, but when this was proposed to the Board of County Commissioners, I think it was last summer, several people stood up, and what was repeatedly said was that no cost to the county, no cost to the county. And now it's morphing, and it's becoming a potential cost to the county, and I think that's still in the back of everyone's mind. The county doesn't talk about it as much as you read about it in the state, but the county has the same financial problem. We don't sit any differently, and the purpose of this committee is to help manage that on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, and there is a county building that is just a sinkhole for county money, and they're just trying very hard to anticipate future costs coming from that part of the county, and the potential of this, and that's.
No, I get it, and I don't mean, no, I'm just stepping above it all, and I almost wonder if it's an option to just tear the building down and build a new one from scratch. And I'm just trying to look for solutions.
Right, and I appreciate that.
understand.
I do. I think we all are.
And I think when we first started this project, I think the assumption was that the lease terms would remain the same, and as we dug into the lease terms, there was confusion as to who was responsible for what.
Well, in reading, I mean, again, I'm no lawyer, but in reading the current lease that we're operating under and the proposed lease, the terms essentially are the same. DHS is being asked in the new lease, different language, but essentially the same, to do the same thing it's doing currently. So I don't know from that regard that we've asked DHS to do anything they're not already doing. But again, I could be wrong.
Well, I can have if not today, I'll have a draft to Gretchen by before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. One other thing we might, since we're throwing everything out here, if the county wanted to transfer that section of the campus to the state, we'd have no recourse but to do it, but to take all the responsibility. But so far, we've had all the responsibility and we don't even own it.
Does the state want it?
I'm sorry?
Does the state really want it?
As of last Friday, it's been discussed, but I can't, they can commit to $160,000.
Right.
I just hate to put $2 million in it from donor money and have no one responsible for taking care of it. And so, kind of representing from the donor side, that's not good faith on our part either.
Well, somebody's got to. I mean, the general public's using it. There's an absolute requirement.
I don't have anything else that will contribute to anything.
I mean, I think, again, we're willing to have special meetings if necessary to try to move this thing along. I think we've demonstrated that time and again, and will continue. So you can get it to us. We need to go before next
Monday is next meeting.
We could look. I mean, keep in mind, we've got a 48-hour notice, but I mean, we're willing to try to meet and to work through this.
We are too.
Can you bring show us what the utility costs are, what's your projected cost on what you're talking about? If you could put actual numbers to those previous.
I can get them, but I don't know how long that takes. Because I generate.
I've already sent a text back to our property division asking for those numbers.
Okay.
Janitorial and utility plant?
Well, that would be nice as well, but.
We should be able to get you all that by the time we meet again.
Well, once I get Jack's document, just over in one of the windows, what I'll do with it is I will forward it to Matt, Mark, and ask him to direct the general, I will hyperlink it, so that's how everyone will see it.
Okay.
We don't take these and discuss them amongst ourselves, all our discussions are in this room.
So if I may, Kristen, does it make sense to add an agenda item for services agreement for Scott and the DHS architect as well, to discuss that? Assuming we can get through this lead. I think we've about got everything on the table.
You can submit whatever you want. they're ready to talk to us.
So this lease has to be renewed yearly, correct?
Correct.
So when we enter the first lease, we are no different than the state, we can only enter into it for 1 year at a time, correct?
Correct.
Right, and
If they come in and this first year it comes in and we say, look, we'll go for this 160, and they come in and next year it is $250,000 is what it cost us, at what point does the county just say, we can't do that? We'll let the building stay going.
well, it would, are you directing that to me?
Well, there's two legal, yes.
Okay.
One of them happens to work for another district.
Well, in fact, so, I wish he had left the room, but anyway, oh, there he is, somebody left.
Well, that was common.
Randy's in the way. Joe asked
What else
me,
is there?
I don't know what else is together. Joe asked me to put in a little bit more language in that lease, just to make it clear that the lease could be terminated. So, a sentence might work that says neither party shall be obligated hereby to give such approval, and that talks about and references renewing it on each fiscal year. So, Miles, to answer your question, the way it's drafted now, including that language, if a party wanted to get out, it would need to be done before June 30th and would become effective July 1. So the intent is to have a 25-year lease, but renewable on each fiscal year.
So if I may, the donor is going to have real issues with putting the amount of money into a building and then in a year it's being terminated. That's just not going to.
But we can't, neither party can enter into a 25-year
I
lease.
understand, but if we go into this with the intention of terminating it after a year,
I don't think that
No, I'm
is
just-
there.
what I'm trying to-
I think as the current lease reads though,
It's the same.
is the same, it was more, it appeared to be more one-sided in favor of DHS.
I thought DHS had the option.
Correct, DHS had the option, there was no language in there about the county could basically opt out. I mean,
Well, both sides should be equal on that.
My major point is, if we come back next year and it's $250,000, that's something that we can discuss and renegotiate at that point, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In theory.
In
And
there.
there's
Yeah,
language
in
there-
theory, you're right, in
Yeah.
theory.
I believe there's language in there that says, DHS can't terminate it so long as the improvements are being made.
Right, I put
So-
that in to protect everybody.
Sure. So if we can make that reciprocal, maybe that'd be a good thing. In other words, you can't throw us out.
While the improvements are being made,
Yeah.
put it in your new draft.
Okay.
Well, what are the action items?
at this point, I don't know that there's any action necessary on 4 or 5, we'll just await DHS's.
Well, that's what I mean. What are the action items?
They're gonna send in writing their proposed changes to what this board wants approved for recommendation to the board, and then we'll meet next Monday, and we'll have it in front of us, and hopefully we can iron something out, one way or the other.
And just so everybody knows, the cutoff is gonna be 9 to 10 o'clock on Friday.
And I'm sorry, Richard, did you say that you had added some things? If you would just forward me your last version, and then that's what I'll use to get you the new language.
So, I don't know if this is possible or not with your Public Meetings Act, but is it possible for Gretchen or a group from this board to meet with Sarah and our representatives and get this lease hammered out before we bring it into this meeting?
No, because it wouldn't be hammered out until it was in this meeting.
Well,
I mean, we could appoint 5 people and they could say it's hammered out, but once you get in here to the full meeting, I may not agree with it, Miles may not agree with it, so I understand what you're asking. I just think perhaps
It just seems like.
going through the attorneys is the best.
It's not legal terms, these are terms. It's not legal right now, it's factual. These are all business decisions that we're talking about, not dithering over whether the word shall or may or might be used, so.
Yeah, and that's really not my point. My point is we come into this meeting and we leave here, you leave here, and neither party is really advanced. And I'm just looking for a way that this could be advanced to where when we come in here, most of the points, maybe not all of them, but most of the points are pretty well agreed on. And if this becomes a formality for public record.
How can we not direct? I mean, we know what our directives are with the lease. We know what we, how can we not have Gretchen act on our stead? Is that not something that?
But, I mean, would it be something, are you talking something like, there's a motion to direct Gretchen to discuss with council, DHS council?
I mean, is that even possible?
We're gonna have you negotiate terms.
Yeah.
No,
And I'm not.
These terms are for the committee to decide, these are all business decisions, if they were legal, it'd be different. For instance,
Attorneys negotiate terms.
correct, but not in this instance. For instance, Sarah and I negotiated for 3 weeks the donor agreement, and there was a lot of legal issues, and brought it to the board, and we got it pretty well squared away. Here, what you were talking about are
Substantive terms that our attorneys can negotiate on our behalf with
No.
direction.
Because she would need direction on what to
I need
negotiate.
direction, and I
mean,
don't-
we would have to say, the county would agree to X, and we can't bind the county to
Right.
X. And so, at this point, I understand, I mean, it's frustrating
We're trying to
from
find
our
a way
end
to make it work.
as well. We'd like to move along.
I think at this juncture, though, you all are looking for utilities information and then the proposal in writing. If, you know, that information is given to you, and this may not be a fair question, but, I mean, do we think we can get it nailed down at the next meeting? I realize you have to review that information, but maybe, you know, we can move on with the decision.
Well, look, this board has put this agenda item on every time for the past how many weeks? Sometimes you guys show up, sometimes you don't. So, in the sense of the committee, they've kept the ball in the air.
Sure, I think somebody's shown up most every time, just, but not to get into the selection. I think the question is, do we think we can move along, if we can get that information? Is there anything else that you all might need, at this point other than that information?
We can get the elevator stuff to Keith, can we? That's, I know I'm singling out one little item, but.
Your point's well taken.
Big
It's
items.
a
Yeah,
big,
very, very big
ticket item.
Yeah.
Randy, do you have anything else?
I do not think, Mr. Chairman. I'm just gonna do it till I get this.
Follow up?
Okay. Gretchen? DHS, do you all have anything else?
No.
Okay, all right, so we'll shoot for, again, Monday, and hopefully Gretchen will have received that. Matthew will then put it on a draft, and we can all take a look at it and have further discussions. And just so I'm,
There may be one thing I do need to bring up, and this was kind of an 11th hour design request. You know, currently there's a commercial laundry and a commercial kitchen in that building. And there's no need for those facilities in there anymore. The laundry room, we're proposing to just take that equipment out and surplus it. The kitchen, we're proposing to take the commercial equipment out, which is pretty much shot anyway, and surplus it, and turn that kitchen into a teaching kitchen with more residential friendly appliances. And we'll go ahead and write that into the lease agreement, but do you see any obstacle there before we do that?
It depends on who is the owner of the terms of the lease.
That was my, That's the first thing to pop in my
the
head.
improvements become the property of the county then.
Well, I don't know that those would be, I
Or,
don't know
right,
if
you
they're
have to look.
free-gaming or
I'm
not.
more concerned
But I
about
think
property
it's
being
addressed by the.
removed.
Whether they're,
That's why I brought it up.
to find the fixtures.
Their fixtures.
Well, the jail needs a new kitchen, or a new option.
go.
You can, you can have it all.
You can have it all.
I think
You have
there's
a,
the same
a tent,
problem
we
that
can put it in as well, right?
Right.
A tent, okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
Ms.
If we
Joe,
need
do
to meet
to-
early, we'll try to meet early
Mhm.
to push this along as best we can.
No action needed on 4 and 5, correct?
No action on 4 and 5, okay? So that would take us to item 6.
You want to defer it?
I'm sorry.
Game link with the way that it's written.
Well, they'll just reappear, they're reoccurring on the regular item, agenda. Correct, Matthew? Yeah. I lost my agenda somewhere in the middle of all these notes.
Citizens participation.
Thank you. Citizens participation, board comments, Miles, Randy? Meeting none. Motion to adjourn.
Please.
Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
You okay?